screaming.
Hello and welcome to Inside Edition Can't Miss, featuring stories you just have to see.
So in the moment I thought, like, if I were to cry, that was over for me, like I would die.
Kennedy Little Dyke from Napa, Idaho survived a terrifying car accident in 2021.
I was having a really hard day because me and my past boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, we broke up 2 days prior, and I was 16, I was emotional, I was a girl, so my two best friends at the time, they were like, hey, let's go do something fun today to keep your mind off everything. We have a big mountain, and you can go park your car at the very base of it and watch like the prettiest sunsets. And so that's where we went, and we were watching the sunset. I actually have a picture of like the sunset that night, like 15 minutes before the accident.
The teens headed home.
I can't remember what made me start crying again, but I wasn't driving at first and crying. Like, everyone's like, you should have pulled over. Yeah, I would have, but it was like so abrupt, and then it happened so quickly. And I started to go off the road on the left side, and I overcorrected too far, and I went off the road on the right side, and my side of the vehicle hit the power pole, and it flipped us sideways, and we started flipping and rolling, and we didn't have our seatbelts on. So when we were flipping and rolling, I was the first one out, and I wasn't on the ground. I was actually hanging in the power line by my broken leg. So all three of us were thrown out, and I was hanging up there, and in the process of getting thrown, my arm was actually torn off and was hanging on by the skin on my back, and then my femur was snapped over the wire and hanging in front of my face. And so you can see it in the picture that it's all twisted. A lot of people ask, how did you not bleed out? Well, the main artery in my leg was pinched off by the power line, and then my main artery in my arm was actually cauterized when I got electrocuted. I remember I was drowning in my blood because it was running from my leg, it was running from my arm, it was like going in my nose, and I was just wiping it out because it was literally drowning me. Like, I didn't know what to do in that situation. I felt so helpless, and I remember I started to cry, and I remember telling myself, like, if you cry, you're done. Like, this is the end for you.
Kennedy had what some might call a religious experience.
But my second memory was actually a FaceTime call. I didn't have my phone, obviously, it was in the field, but I had a memory of a FaceTime call, and it was a picture of God, the picture of him reaching his hand through the water. And I remember and that was his profile picture, and it was the decline or the accept button, and I just started slamming the accept button because I was like, this is hard, I don't want to be here, I'm uncomfortable. And I started to cry because a FaceTime call only rings for so long, and eventually the screen just goes black, and I can see my reflection in the phone, and I was just like bruised, and there was blood everywhere. I was awake this whole time. This is just like, I never passed out. I never lost communication with the people underneath me. I was talking the whole time.
Kennedy didn't feel pain at the time.
The whole time I was up there, I was just uncomfortable. Like, that's it. It wasn't like excruciating pain. Like, I was just genuinely uncomfortable. And they also said I would complain about my back hurting because you have 5 main nerves that run this arm and 5 main nerves that run this arm. And on my left arm, 3 were pulled from the root and the other 2 were stretched. And so obviously my spine is leaking spinal fluid. But no, I wasn't aware of my injuries at the time.
First responders worked to free Kennedy.
It took an hour because first they had to get the power shut off. He just grabbed my leg and has to take it out of the wire, and it's just, you just watch my body like lifelessly fall on the stretcher when they put the tourniquet on and had to take my bone back off the wire. And they said I just like screamed, and then once I hit the stretcher, it was just like silent. And I remember like being on the stretcher and the feeling of like, I'm safe. I think it's even hard for me to wrap my mind around it. Can't remember if I said it in my mind or actually said it, but I remember feeling like saying, thank you for trying to save my life, but this is it for me. And I remember like closing my eyes and just done.
Her father arrived at the scene of the accident.
And he just begged, and he got on his knees and was like, please God, don't take her. And my eyes started like rolling to the back of my head because I thought I was done. And they asked if he wanted to give me a blessing, and he said yes. And so he gave me a blessing and gave me a kiss on the forehead. And they told him that I was not going to make it.
She was flown to University of Utah.
I broke my femur, I broke my humerus bone, I broke my clavicle, and then I have a brachial plexus injury. My leg was shredded pretty bad from that wire.
Doctors couldn't save her leg.
I think I actually had a total of 5 amputations. They tried to save as much as possible because the more leg that you have for a prosthetic leg to walk, the more easier it is. And so they tried taking it at my knee, like through my knee. And this process is hard because my leg just kept rotting because the bone was broken so high up that they just were like trying to keep as most as possible, because I had a total of 21 surgeries for everything that was going on with me. It was every other day they were going in and taking more leg, and to go under surgery over and over and over to get more and more leg get cut off. They finally just cut it off at the bone. My dad was about to tell me that they had to take my leg, and he came in the room and he was like, Kennedy, like, we have to take your leg. The room was so heavy, and I was like, did either of my friends lose a limb? And he said no, and I said, well, I'm glad I'm the one that lost it since I was driving. And I just turned my head, and I just, in that moment, you're 16 years old, all your dreams that you had in your head, and like, I don't know, they're all like gone.
Wear your seatbelt.
Wear your seatbelt.
Kennedy was in the hospital for 7 weeks.
After one of my last surgeries, they came in, physical therapy came in, they're like, we're gonna do 10 squats today. My parents were like, she just got out of surgery, like, what are you doing? And I was like, I can do it. And I remember asking them, like, is my gown covering my leg? And they said, yeah, it's covering your leg. So I got up, did my 10 squats, and I was feeling good, like making jokes, all the things. I don't know, I just glanced down and my gown was up, not covering my leg. And obviously I had bandages all over, and I remember looking down and I looked at my dad, and I started bawling. I was like, you didn't tell me that it was short. It was this short. No, I was upset because I really don't have much of a leg. Like, if it looks longer because the skin's like lost all its muscle, so it looks longer, but the bone is really like maybe that long. Like, I have no femur really left. Then the nurses and everything, they were like, I want you to touch it. And I looked at them and I was like, hell no. I was like, I'm not doing that. And then 10 minutes later went by and I touched it, and I like cried again a little bit because it's real. It's not just like in my head. But then as like within 20 minutes, I was totally fine with it. Like, I literally named it. I named my nub Gobi. And I made a whole dance for it. Go Gobi. Go Gobi. Go Gobi. I don't know what happened to me in the hospital, but I just had like such a smooth transfer from such a bad mental health state to like such a positive one.
When Kennedy got home, she had to relearn daily tasks.
Brushing your teeth, you don't think is that hard, but like, I would balance on one leg and not having a balance ever and brush your teeth on that. And then like, I couldn't do my hair. Like, I couldn't put my hair in a ponytail. Like, putting on deodorant with one arm under this arm, like, I've never done that. And for a while, my mom, we were really close because she showered me. Because my arm wasn't strong enough to be able to wash my hair, keep it in the air. Like, I was just so unbelievably weak. And our community actually came in and they like built us a whole walk-in shower in our bathroom. They built us a ramp because we had stairs all to get in our house. Like, they did crazy things for us, and so they definitely made that transition easier.
Kennedy began her senior year of high school.
I have a really hard time with my energy levels because walking with a prosthetic leg is just so draining, and everything was so new. Like, if I wasn't going to school, I was in therapy. Like, I was in physical therapy, I was in occupational therapy, shock therapy for my arm, I had hyperbaric therapy. Like, I would literally spend like 4.5 hours at therapy, like 4 times a week. and then I was doing school on top of it. And I was walking really well. My arm, though, my humerus bone actually didn't heal for 8 months after the accident. Like, it just stayed broken. Like, it would not heal. And then a year after the accident, I had another surgery to help with more function in my arm.
Kennedy, now 19, shares daily life on social media.
I think one of my first videos, or first video in general, was me doing the Gobi dance. And I posted it on TikTok, and man, was I brave, because I didn't realize yet how mean the internet was, and that hurt my feelings. Go Gobi! Go Gobi! After that, I kind of was like, well, it's whatever. Like, I have a pretty sick story, and why not share it?
And she recently found love.
In the hospital, I would cry about, like, is anyone ever gonna love me again? And then this boy, his name's Alec, and I never thought, like, someone could love me, like, as much and accept me as he does. I can take my liner off, because you have to wear a liner with your prosthetic leg, and my bare leg around him doesn't bother me. And my bare leg is, like, not a pretty sight. I have scars all over it, and it's, like, jiggly. And so, like, but he does not care, and he will do anything to make my life easier.
Kennedy says the accident transformed her.
Before my accident, I struggled with, like, mental health, and I wanted to commit suicide. I did not ever really plan my future because I didn't think there was going to be one. I wasn't happy. I was struggling with a lot of things. Obviously my dad had cancer, different things at home. Just a lot of different things were happening. I look back and I'm like, wow, you're pathetic. But because now look at me, I'm in a whole different, harder situation, but I'm so much happier.
She has tough love advice for anyone like her.
I feel like I can say it since I've gone through it. Don't feel bad for yourself. That's the worst thing you can do, is sit and feel bad for yourself and be like, why me? Why me? Because you're not going to get an answer. You have your whole life ahead of you. Your situation's not going to change. Your leg's still gone. Your limb's still gone. Like, go do something about it. Getting up, working for what you want, having goals, pushing yourself, like, not feeling bad for yourself, that's going to be hard too, but at least you're going to be happier that way.
Resharing her story is tough, but Kennedy says she does it to help others.
I've made a career out of public speaking, and that helped me knowing that I've helped others. Do you know how many people have come to me like, I never wore my seatbelt, but I do now because of you. I would go through this accident. I would go through the pain. I would go through it all again, just like to have that rewarding feeling and like feeling like I made a difference in someone's life. So I love it. I really do. And it makes me feel like I do make a difference in this world.
Stick around, there's more Inside Edition Can't Miss coming up.
The sheriff's office! Wake up!
Hey, where are your kids?
Right there.
This woman is walking out of her house. Just an ordinary day. Suddenly, she screams. What's that sound? Oh no, it's a gaggle of geese, and they're coming for her.
These are the sounds of new construction taking place on an old property with a sad past. In Fort Worth, Texas, on this very site in 1939, a racist mob burned down the house of a family they didn't want living in the neighborhood.
If people can be taught to hate, they can be taught to love.
Nobel Peace Prize nominee Dr. Opal Lee was 12 years old at the time. This was her family's home.
I tried so hard to put it out of my mind because my mom had this house fixed up so nice. And would you believe it was on the 19th of June that people started gathering? And the paper says there was 500 of them. And the police were here. My dad came home with a gun from work, and the police told him, if you bust a cap, we'll let this mob have you. Our parents sent us to friends several blocks away, and they left under cover of darkness. And those people tore this place asunder.
June 19th has a double meaning to Dr. Lee. Not only was it the day her family lost their home, it was the day in 1865 that many formerly enslaved Texans learned they had been freed, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Dr. Lee made it her mission to make Juneteenth a national holiday.
I think that Juneteenth would be the bridge that we could all go over. I'm even advocating that we celebrate from the 19th of June to the 4th of July.
The National Juneteenth Museum is located a short distance away from the property, once owned by Lee's parents.
And of course, we had no idea what the history of it was 80 plus years ago.
When Habitat for Humanity learned about Dr. Lee, how she built a community garden and taught in Texas schools for decades, they chose to gift her with a brand new home on the property that should have always been hers.
Hate tore the house down. Love is going to build the house.
Volunteers are building the home, and a financial services company is giving the funds for all of the home's furnishings.
I'm not a person who sheds tears often, but I got a few for this project. I truly have.
Dr. Lee says she knows her family would be proud.
I know my mom would be smiling down, and my dad, he'd think, well, we finally got it done. Times have changed, and I'm just so glad that maybe I could be a part of that change.
Look, it's a young couple passed out on the beach. Cops say they had too much to drink.
What's up, guys? Sheriff's office. Time to wake up.
But they don't budge. Beer cans are littered around them.
Yep, time to wake up, guys. Hey.
Even shaking them doesn't help.
The sheriff's office! Wake up!
Finally, the two arise from their drunken stupor. But this isn't just a case of knucklehead spring breakers on Daytona Beach. These are parents, and their two young kids are missing.
Do you guys have children with you?
Neither seems too concerned about the kids, so cops ask again.
Hey, where are your kids?
Right there.
But the 5- and 7-year-olds are nowhere to be seen. The guy heads to the water's edge to take a look. It was a 911 caller who first alerted authorities.
The lady, I guess her boyfriend gave her like 4 shots and she passed out. And she has 2 little kids. Now they're both passed out and the kids are by themselves.
You don't know where they are?
So where were the kids? So much time had passed, they'd wandered off. They weren't even on the beach. Deputies found them at a nearby hotel, safe by the pool. Deputies placed the couple in handcuffs and charged them with child neglect. Mom swears up a storm.
The cops here so now we both go to jail.
Then the guy makes a really stupid move. He takes off, running with his hands cuffed behind his back. He doesn't get very far, face planting right into the sand and knocking himself out.
Call an ambulance, please.
Hours later, his mugshot shows his bruised and scraped face. The idea that a parent would be passed out, what was your reaction?
You know, my reaction was, absolutely disgusted that you could be that inebriated that we can't wake you up. Thank God those kids didn't get into the ocean. We have horrible rip currents here.
The sheriff's office! Wake up!
The owners of these trashed homes all say squatters moved into their properties, caused mayhem, and refused to leave. An explosion of squatting cases is gripping the nation. In Atlanta alone, 1,200 homes are said to be illegally occupied. Inside Edition was there as sheriff's deputies raided this woman's house outside Atlanta and took into custody a man she says was a squatter.
He had no intention of leaving.
Once back in her home, she finds the alleged squatter's junk everywhere. In Riverside County, California, a woman fights to get inside the dream house that she and her husband had just bought. They say the previous owner refused to leave, citing COVID eviction protections. It took a 14-month legal battle before the new owners were finally allowed to claim their property. In Beverly Hills, the realtor for this mansion says squatters have moved in, changed the locks, and turned this $4.5 million property into a raging party house. And here's a strange twist on the epidemic. A nationally prominent restaurateur, Adam Fleischman, who founded the Umami Burger restaurant chain in 2009, was recently accused of squatting at this Hollywood Hills home. The owner, a 62-year-old widow, reached out to the one person she hoped could help, a self-taught expert on dealing with unwanted tenants. He calls himself the Squatter Hunter. Flash Shelton is the self-proclaimed squatter hunter. He says he's on a mission to take back properties after alleged squatters move in. Here he is confronting Fleischman.
I understand you've been squatting at this residence?
No. The confrontation continues inside the home, where the squatter hunter turns the tables on the alleged squatter.
I am taking over this property, I am leasing this property, and I'm moving my crew in and put cameras up everywhere.
Whatever you put up, no one's going to give
Okay.
I've gotten bad publicity before.
Fleischman denies being a squatter, claiming he had a right to live there, but moved out just a week later.
And when I turn up the pressure, it's pretty easy to get them out.
There are still so many stories to tell. Stick with the stream for more from Inside Edition.
Powerful stories that change the way you think. Impactful investigations that change the way you see.
How many times has your car been stolen?
5 times.
Yeah. What? Do you think that you're a responsible owner of tigers?
I damn sure do.
Heartwarming moments that change the way you feel.
Amazing.
Now available in a place that changes the way you watch TV. Inside Edition, streaming.
These are the stories you can't miss from Inside Edition. Watch.
Mexico is so close to the U.S., and you think it's close, it's safe, it's fun. One little incident happens and your whole life is upside down and you can't get help.
Justin Rayford and his boyfriend of almost 3 years, Jared Hill, are dealing with the aftermath of a nightmare scenario they endured while on vacation in Mexico a few weeks ago.
It was my birthday. We, decided to go to Tulum. So, it's absolutely beautiful there.
Upon arriving, the Texas couple decided to go to the beach.
He was like, let's go jump around in the ocean and play around the ocean. And we were just jumping around in waves. And, it was having fun. I was tired and was like, I want to go lay back in the cabana. And I actually started to walk away. I heard a voice inside of me say, you need to watch him. And I turned around and saw a bigger wave come and get him, and it crashed him into the bottom of the ocean. And then I saw him not come up, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on?
Jared was instantly injured.
And he was under the water because he was fully paralyzed, and I had to pull him up. And he was just screaming, I can't move my body, I can't move my body. And I had to pick him up and carry him back to the beach while I was screaming for help. A manager of the beach club came over and I was like, we need an ambulance. I think he broke his neck. And some American doctor ran over and was like, I'm a doctor, can I help? The manager actually told him to go away. Manager says, we called an ambulance, and I was like, okay, great. So then it was just focusing on Jared because he is screaming bloody murder. Time just kept ticking and ticking and ticking. And I was like, what is going on? Then I noticed staff members started coming around, and the manager had the staff members stand in front of Jared, blocking him from the view of the other people at the beach club. And I was like, this is kind of weird. Probably 45 minutes had passed, and I was like, something is not right. So I asked one of the people blocking Jared, I said, can you please call an ambulance? And he pulled his phone out, and the manager told him no. And so he put his phone away. So I was like, something is up.
Justin went to the cabana to grab his phone.
So I WhatsApped our concierge and I said, hey, there's been a terrible accident. Jared's in a lot of trouble. I need an ambulance, and I don't think this place is calling them. So he was like, let me see if I can help. He calls the GM, finds out they have not called help. And I was like, I knew it. And then he deleted the WhatsApp message that he had told me this. And I was like, okay, something is going on. I do not feel comfortable at all.
Justin called Red Cross.
I just told Jared, help is coming. It was over 3 hours, and the hospital is 4.5 miles away. With, the person I love most in the world screaming in pain, scared for their life. And I get out of the ambulance and I'm like, okay, like, what are we doing? And there's all these people standing outside and nobody's taking Jared out of the ambulance. Some doctor came out and said, we won't take him out of the ambulance unless you pay us $5,000.
Justin felt he had no choice to pay the money to get the CT scan.
His neck is just like shattered. He broke his C1, his C5, 6, 7, and his spinal cord was bent like an S, and there was pieces of his vertebrae sticking into his spinal cord. And they were just like, this is really bad, like, we can't help you.
The pair went to another hospital.
The bumpiest ambulance ride with a broken neck it took over an hour and a half to get there. They do an MRI on him that took 2 hours. And, I'm just pacing back and forth.
A neurosurgeon told him Jared needed surgery. Justin says doctors still did nothing for over 24 hours.
I am running around this 3-story hospital to the admissions department, to the billing department, to finding nurses to get him more pain medication, and getting different stories from like every single department of what is going on and what's happening. They had pushed off the surgery over and over again and made up all these excuses. Like, what can I do? I said, you have everything you're supposed to have. And the neurosurgeon said he could die if we don't do this surgery. And he literally looked at me and he's like, I'm so sorry, there's nothing I can do. And I said, what do you mean? And he picked up his phone and showed me a message from the hospital director saying, I'm gonna keep canceling the surgery, get money out of them. They literally just wanted cash to grease the wheel to have the surgery. And this is at a hospital where people are supposed to care about people's well-being in life. They wanted $20,000. So of course I paid.
They still couldn't get surgery.
I don't know what to do. This hospital is giving me the runaround. They wanted a ransom payment. I gave them the ransom payment. They said the surgery was happening. They canceled it.
He pleaded with the neurosurgeon who finally did the procedure.
The surgeon just said, like, I did the best that I can, and I think I did good, but it's not perfect. And that he was hemorrhaging really bad at the top of his neck where your head is, and so they didn't get to fix 2 of his vertebrae. They just had to close them up. They had to do a 360 surgery on him. So they actually had to cut him in the front of his throat first, put his vocal cords over, and pull out the broken fragments from his neck to safely roll him over and then cut him down the back.
The condition of the hospital bothered Justin.
They don't wear gloves, they don't wash their hands, they don't wear protective PPE. I literally had to beg the people in there to not touch him with bare hands in the ICU. And trying to explain to them that he has a spinal cord injury and an incision next to his brain. Like, we cannot have bare hands. And I was like, what sort of ICU is this? This is not a safe zone at all.
After several days, Jared was flown to Houston, Texas.
They were ready for us. There were 3 nurses in there to do a full body assessment, clean him up, take all his vitals, start him on fluids. There was a neurosurgeon in the room within 10 minutes to check him out. They ran tests on him till 3:30 in the morning. So chaotic and exhausting, but it's what saved his life. And it was so wonderful to be back here and feel like you were in good hands. They see he has a spinal cord leak. He still has 2 broken bones in his neck that weren't fixed. And they're like, he has to go into surgery right away. This is life threatening.
Jared's condition worsened.
And the next thing I know, the surgery for that day was canceled and we couldn't find out why. So one of the doctors pulls me outside of the room and says, he has PE, he has pulmonary embolism. And they said it's blood clots in his lungs. And it was because in the Mexican hospital, they just kept him drugged so he never moved at all and nobody moved him.
Then more bad news.
The head of infectious diseases came in and let us know that he also had meningitis from not being in sanitary or disinfected areas. And again, they said this is super critical because you have a spinal fluid leak. It's next to your brain, and this could kill you. So he was on like 6 different IVs, literally 6 at all times, that he had to be on a blood thinner for the blood clots, 4 different antibiotics. And again, he like still couldn't really move. They couldn't fix his spinal cord because they couldn't risk cutting it open because of meningitis.
For days, doctors worked to stabilize him for surgery.
When they cut him open, they discovered that not only were the titanium pieces that they had put in Mexico the wrong sizes, they were in the wrong places. So they had to remove everything out, put in all new hardware, and then fuse his C1 and C2, put a plate in the back of his head. They also discovered a cut in his dura of his spinal cord, like a surgical cut. That was, they assume, a mistake made by one of the 2 surgeons in there, and that's why so much fluid was leaking out.
After a nightmarish few weeks, Jared is finally healing.
Jared is such an amazing man. I love him so much. He's the most positive, sweet, kind person I've ever met. He stayed so positive and in control and calm, which I don't know how he did, not being able to move and being told you were going to die 3 different times.
He's taking time off from his job in sales, and he's getting stronger every day.
Working out.
Jared is on physical therapy and occupational therapy. He did start to be able to wiggle his shoulders and move his arms slightly, which was amazing. He was walking with the physical therapist today. No, it wasn't cute. Wasn't cute at all. But he was walking. And the doctors here are very hopeful.
They have a GoFundMe for medical expenses.
The outpouring of support and love to him has been overwhelmingly wonderful. Like it is so touching. But I just need to, I feel like I need to advocate for him to make sure that he can still get that love and support.
Jared shares the story to warn other travelers.
I try to be a very proactive traveler, like had international insurance. I know where the hospital is. I've been to Tulum before. People just need to know about this. Like if you are a person that researches things and plans things and you felt like you had things relatively under control and your whole world got turned upside down, how would it be for someone else? I need to tell people. I don't even know what it's going to do, but at least if it makes one person think or plan a little better, I think that makes a difference.
It can happen fast. A car crashes into water, quickly sinking.
Guys, get off the hammock.
Just relaxing, this bear decided to chill on a hammock in a Vermont home's backyard, with another bear watching with delight. The bears seemed to stay put until they were scolded.
Guys, get off the hammock. Hey!
And then, finally, decided to listen.
She was the popular momfluencer who dished out advice to millions on YouTube. Then Ruby Frankie was found guilty of child abuse. Now, for the first time, we are seeing the moment she was put in cuffs. Les Trent has details.
Police officers, open up!
It's just released body cam video of armed cops raiding the home of former mom influencer Ruby Franke and her co-host to uncover horrific child abuse.
Step out of the house. Step out of the house. We're just gonna say
Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrand dispensed parenting advice on social media to 2.5 million followers with an emphasis on tough love. But paramedics were moved to tears by what they found inside their multi-million-dollar home. A traumatized child sat motionless in a closet, undernourished and too terrified to talk.
Are you scared?
It's okay if I just sit here with you. We don't have to say anything if you don't want to.
The shocking videos are featured on a 2020 episode airing tonight.
It's also heartbreaking to see that officer coax the little girl out of that closet.
Absolutely. And it was hours of gentle talking that got her to open up. And finally he said, "Do you want some pizza?" And that's what got her out of that closet.
Cops were called to the home in an upscale neighborhood in Utah after Franke's 12-year-old son escaped and fled to a neighbor's home.
We received a report of an emaciated juvenile that had duct tape around his extremities, that was asking for food and water.
He was treated by paramedics at the scene.
Look to your left.
As handcuffs closed over Ruby Franke's wrists, her brutal reign of terror came to an abrupt end.
Do you need medical attention before you go to the jail?
It can happen fast. A car crashes into water, quickly sinking. A recent victim is the sister-in-law of Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, billionaire businesswoman Angela Chow, who lost her life after backing her Tesla into a pond. McConnell referenced the tragic accident in his resignation announcement last week.
We tragically lost Elaine's younger sister, Angela, just a few weeks ago.
Angela's sister is Elaine Chow, former Secretary of Transportation during the Trump administration. The billionaire shipping heiress was attempting to make a three-point turn at her ranch outside Austin, Texas, when she reportedly put her Tesla into reverse instead of drive, sending the vehicle into a pond on her property. Now, according to reports, Chow first called her friends on the phone for help, and one actually jumped into the water in an attempt to rescue her, but was unable to break the Tesla's windows. Dr. Gordon Giesbrecht is an expert on car submersions. In this demonstration, you can see Giesbrecht deliberately drive a car into a lake. The car fills with water. Giesbrecht makes his way to the back seat. Big mistake, he says.
You need to get out of that vehicle as quick as possible. You've got about 1 minute to finish everything. We advise SWAC, seatbelts off, windows open, out immediately, children first.
Another tip, avoid the natural instinct of calling 911 because you'll lose critical time.
If you grab your cell phone, basically you're going to die.
In another demonstration, Giesbrecht and his team show how to get out correctly. They get their seatbelts off, open the windows, and escape the sinking vehicle.
Your car is basically a boat with a big leak, and the windows will stay above the water for 30, 40, 60 seconds. Your electric windows will certainly work for 30 to 60 seconds.
Could Angela Chow have saved herself if she had a hammer or glass breaker? Could she have broken the windows of her Tesla and gotten out, like this demonstration? AAA's Robert Sinclair says probably not.
The lamination is designed to keep shards from flying all over the place, to keep the glass as whole as possible, so you go to hit this, it's not going to break.
These YouTube videos show how hard it is to break that laminated glass. I've always thought you're supposed to try to break the window with one of those window smasher things. Is that really the case?
They're now building cars with laminated side windows, so even if you had a window breaker, it won't work because your side window is just like your windshield now, and you can crack it, but you can't smash it.
This grandmother got quite a shock when a SWAT team with guns drawn showed up at her house. Turns out they had the wrong house. And talk about bad timing. She had just gotten out of the shower and was still in her bathrobe. Now, as Les Trent reports, the city has to pay up.
A heavily armed SWAT team surrounds a house. They're looking for a dangerous truck thief. He's believed to possess an arsenal of automatic guns and ammunition. What they didn't expect to find inside the Denver house was a 78-year-old grandmother. There she is. She has just taken a shower. She's still wearing a bathrobe and hair bonnet.
Do you have anything on you you're not supposed to? Do you have any guns or knives?
Oh, no.
So nobody else is in the house, ma'am?
No, nobody else is in the house.
Ruby Johnson is in complete disbelief.
I see stuff like this on the movie, but I didn't think it'd ever happen.
The SWAT team moves in and begins their search. You can hear the shower still running. They rip the lock off a storage unit and find a Christmas tree. They use a battering ram to burst into the garage. Again, nothing. And while the elderly homeowner sat in the back of the patrol car, her house was searched top to bottom. But here's the kicker. The SWAT team was at the wrong house. Her son, Greg Brunson, says his mom is still too rattled to talk.
What did she tell you happened?
She didn't know. She was so confused. She was very upset with the whole situation, very emotional. She was crying. I had to try to calm her down.
He said she tried to stay calm.
She wanted to be nice to the officers. She did not want to get hurt.
Now a jury has awarded Mrs. Johnson $3.76 million.
Definitely putting a smile on her, and we're hoping that the healing process can begin.
Authorities say this grinning suspect shot and killed a state police officer who had stopped to give him a hand with the flat tire. And he might still be at large if not for a store clerk who'd seen coverage of the killing and bravely helped bring him to justice. Still worried about her family's safety, she agreed to speak with Stephen Fabian, but only in disguise.
She's the masked witness who cops say brought a cross-country killing spree to a halt.
I was just like, this is him. This is really him.
It started in South Carolina with the slaying of a paramedic, Phoenicia Machado IV. Cops say the person of interest, Jeremy Smith, took her car and drove across the country to New Mexico, where he got a flat tire. That's when a state police officer got out of his patrol car to help the motorist who he thought needed roadside assistance. Smith allegedly opened fire, killing the officer, Justin Hare.
The last words Officer Hare uttered on this earth was to offer help to a man who's about to kill him.
Cops say Smith took off in the slain trooper's vehicle.
The manhunt continues for a 32-year-old man who authorities say shot and killed a police officer.
That's where the masked witness steps in.
I actually carded him for his cigarettes. I realized who he was.
The witness says she recognized the wanted fugitive when he bought the cigarettes at the gas station where she works. She says the dead giveaway was the suspect's ID and the unique way he spelled his name. It was Jeremy, but he spelled it with an A, as in Jaremy.
My biggest fear was he gonna catch on that I know who he is? Are me and my coworker gonna make this out alive?
So as soon as he left the store, what did you do next?
I just called our sheriff's phone number and just told the dispatcher that Jeremy Smith was just in my store.
Cops say Smith was captured after a shootout with officers. Today, the masked witness is paying tribute to the slain paramedic and the slain officer, who was a father of two.
I just did what was right. If you see something, hear something, do something.
There are still so many stories to tell. Stick with the stream for more from Inside Edition.
Powerful stories that change the way you think. Impactful investigations that change the way you see.
How many times has your car been stolen?
5 times.
Yeah. What? Do you think that you're a responsible owner of tigers?
I damn sure do.
Heartwarming moments that change the way you feel.
Amazing.
Now available in a place that changes the way you watch TV. Inside Edition, streaming.